Alright everyone, welcome back to my channel. I hope you've all had a smashing day wherever you may be. So today my video that I'm going to be doing for you, it's going to be Balmain's greatest ever team from 1908 to 1999. I've already done South Sydney, Eastern Suburbs, North Sydney and my own club Parramatta, but tonight I'm going to be doing Balmain, the Tigers, or as they were known a very long time ago, the Watersiders. So I'm going to be doing the best ever team from 1908 to 1999. For you people out there that don't know your history that well, or you might be new to rugby league, or you're not that great on trivia, Balmain were one of the foundation clubs of the New South Wales Rugby League. They played in that competition all the way up until 1994, then continued on into the ERL competition and then the NRL competition. Unfortunately, they were a victim of the Super League war and the rationalisation, and as it turned out, they had to merge with Western Suburbs. So, at the time of their exit from the competition, Balmain were the third most successful club, tied with Eastern Suburbs with premierships with 11. They're a proud club, great history, and I had a big soft spot for Balmain growing up. They had some smashing players. So we're going to get into the list tonight, and I'm going to tell you who I think are their best players and their best ever team. So let's get started. I'll just get my list up here now. So at fullback I've got Keith Barnes, also known as Golden Boots. Keith Barnes is the record point scorer for Balmain. He played at fullback for his whole career. He played in 3 grand finals for the club in the 50s and 60s when they faced the Juggernaut of St George. He was nicknamed Golden Boots because he was a great goal kicker, especially for that time period. Goal kicking was a lot different back then than what it is now. He kicked nearly 1,000 goals in his time with Balmain, and he retired just 1 year before they won the premiership. So I kind of feel sorry for him in a way, because he was with the club for so long. The year that he's not there, they win the premiership. On the left wing, I've gone for Sid Goodwin. Now, many people out there wouldn't know who Sid Goodwin was. He captained Balmain in the 1930s and 1940s. He played 118 matches and scored 80 tries. And he captained the club to the 1939 premiership, where they defeated South Sydney in the grand final. He went on to play for Newtown, where he won a premiership there, but tonight he's in my team for Balmain on the wing. The left centre, I've chosen Joe Jorgensen. Joe Jorgensen played with Balmain during their second golden era in the 1940s. He won 3 premierships as a player with Balmain. In the 1947 grand final, he kicked all of Balmain's he scored all of Balmain's points as they beat Canterbury in the grand final. He was a fantastic centre. He represented his country, he represented his state, and he gets me picked for the left centre. The right centre goes to Jim Craig. Jim Craig played for the club in the 1910s and the 1920s when the club was going through their first golden era. He won 5 premierships with Balmain. And Dally Messenger, when he was still alive, he actually said, quote unquote, that Jim Craig is the best player that I've ever seen. So when you get someone like Dally Messenger saying that about you, it means something. So Jim Craig gets me right centre position. On me right wing, I've got Arthur Patton. He won 3 premierships with Balmain in the 1930s and 1940s. He was actually a professional runner. He was a sprinter, and he competed in some carnivals, and he was that quick he actually could have gone to the Olympics, but because it was during the Second World War that he was playing, he didn't ever get the opportunity to do that. He scored 95 tries in 117 matches for Balmain, and he also captained the club, so he gets me spot on the right wing. The 5'8", I've chosen Charles Fraser, or as he was known, Chuck Fraser. That was his nickname. Charles Fraser played for the club in the 1910s and 1920s. He won 6 premierships as a player. He played in a number of positions, but he played a lot of 5/8. He played for Australia, he played for New South Wales. He was born in Belmead, Birchgrove, and he died in Belmead. He had Belmead going through his veins. He was, by all accounts, a wonderful player. If I could go back in a time machine, I'd love to watch some of these players, because the stuff that you read about them is just out of this world. So he gets me spot for the 5/8 position. The halfback, I've gone for Arthur Holloway. He won 5 premierships with Belmead, 4 as a captain coach. Arthur Holloway is in the Eastern Suburbs team of the greatest ever team as the coach, but with Belmead, I've got him at halfback. He also won premierships with Eastern Suburbs as a player. He's one of the most decorated players in rugby league history. If you get a spare moment, go on Wikipedia or go on Rugby League Project and read about him, because some of the stuff he achieved in the game is crazy. The props, I've gone for Steve Roach and Arthur Beetson. Steve Roach was one of the premier front rowers in the 1980s. He didn't win a premiership with Belmead, unfortunately. He was suspended for the 1988 grand final against Canterbury, and he played in the 1989 grand final, loss to Canberra. He represented New South Wales and Australia also in his time with Belmead, and he played over 180 matches for the club. So he gets me picked for one of the props. The other prop, well, that's pretty much a no-brainer, Arthur Beetson. He's an immortal. He started his career off with Belmead. Unfortunately, he missed out on the 1969 grand final because he was suspended from something that he did in the preliminary final. So Arthur Beetson gets me all the prop position. And at hooker, I've got Benny Elias. Benny Elias was one of the best dummy halves of the 1980s and the early 1990s. He played 234 games for Belmead. Like Steve Roach, unfortunately he didn't get the premiership that he deserved, but he gets me spot for the hooker. The second rowers, I've got Paul Sirenen and Harry Bath. So Paul Sirenen, he played in the 1980s and 1990s for Belmead. He was the last of the star players you could see for Belmead to retire. He retired in 1998. He played a club record 246 games for Belmead. He was very loyal to the club. In the 1990s, I read that he was offered $500,000 a year to go join Cronulla on a 2-year deal, and he turned it down. Now, $500,000 back in the 1990s, that would be, with inflation, could be a couple of million now. He played in 2 grand finals for Belmead. In the 1989 grand final, he scored one of the best grand final tries in the modern era. So if you get a moment, go on YouTube and look at the try that he scored in the 89 grand final. And the other second rower, I've got Harry Bath. His nickname was the Old Fox. Harry Bath played for Belmead, where he won 2 premierships in the 1940s. Then he went across to England. He was there for about 10 years over here with Warrington, and then he went back and played with St George. He was voted one of the finest players of the 20th century. So he gets me pick for the second row position. And at lock, I've got Wayne Pearce. Wayne Pearce, he's Belmead through and through. I've read the story about him. He was born very close to Leichhardt Oval. He used to go there as a youngster, dreaming of playing for Belmead, and he achieved his goal of that. He captained the club. He played nearly 200 games for the club in first grade, played in 2 grand final losses. He was just, I think he was ahead of his time. He was very fit, very professional, a leader often on the field, and someone that you could look up to as a person coming through the ranks. So Wayne Pearce gets me lock position. And on the bench, the first spot goes to Alf Freezer. Alf Freezer played in the 1910s and 1920s. He won 5 premierships, so he's a no-brainer as the first bench spot. The second bench spot, Tim Brasher. He was a fullback that played for Belmead in the 1980s and 1990s. He played in the 1989 Grand Final, lost to Canberra. He played 185 games for Belmead and scored 82 tries. I remember growing up, he was pretty much their X-Factor player. Tim Brasher was the best player that Belmead had, I think, in the 1990s. At one point, he was voted as one of the best players in the world. I used to love watching Tim Brasher play. At least I can see that I had the pleasure of watching him play. There's not too many highlights of him on YouTube for some reason, but he was a fantastic player. He had a lot of opportunities to leave Belmead earlier in his career, and he stayed loyal to the club, which I admire. So he gets me second bench spot. My third bench spot goes to Peter Provan. He was the brother of Norm Provan. He played for Belmead in the 1960s, and he captained the club to the 1969 Premiership, which was their last ever Premiership. Peter Provan was a leader on the field. He led by example. He was a great player. He also played for St George earlier in his career, but Belmead's where he made his name. So he gets me third bench spot. And my last bench spot goes to Tom Burke. He won 4 premierships with Belmead in the 1930s and 1940s. He was also a captain of the club in that time period. He was voted back then as one of the best defenders in the competition, and also one of the toughest tacklers in the competition. So he gets me last bench spot, Tom Burke. And for 18th man, this is a real tough one because I had to either choose between Steve Roach, Arthur Beetson and this player for the prop position, but I'll give an honourable mention to Bill Schultz. Bill Schultz played for Belmead in the 1910s and 1920s in their first golden era, and he was a part of 6 premiership victories. So he gets me pick for the 18th man, just in case Steve Roach or Arthur Beetson got injured in the pre-game warm-up. And for my head coach position, I've gone for Norm Robinson, or as he was known, his nickname, Latcham. Norm Latcham Robinson. He was a premiership winning player with Belmead in the 1920s, but then he went into the club as an administrator, and then in the 1940s he became head coach of Belmead, where he coached the club to 4 grand finals in a row, and 3 of them were grand final victories. Then he retired from coaching, went back to being an administrator, and then he went back to coaching in the 1950s, where he coached Belmead to the 1956 grand final where they lost to St George. Latcham Robinson, the stand at Leichhardt Oval is named in his honour. It's a wonderful stand. I've sat in there many times. It's a great tribute to such a great coach. And yeah, so that's me team. That's me Belmead team. Belmead Tigers. Belmead boys don't cry. So I hope you enjoyed the video. I hope you liked the team. If you liked the video, please give it a thumbs up. And if you're liking my channel, if you're enjoying what I'm putting out, please click that like button. Please click that subscribe button. Hit that notification bell, because I'll be making more of these greatest teams coming in the next few days. And as always, take care of yourself, catch us all later, and ta-ra.